something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
G'day, folks. How you going? Hope you've had a pretty good sort of a Friday. It's always good Fridays, I reckon. Well, if you don't have to work Saturday or Sunday, always used to be pretty good on a Friday, I thought. Today has been one of those days, bleeding hot where we are, but I dare say it's pretty much the case down the entire East Coast and only going to get warmer. Tomorrow, I want to say Brisbane and the Gold Coast expecting something like 35 tomorrow. That'll put us around 37 to 40. I would say. The heat usually is a little more intense inland, and we're about 30 minutes from the coast, but we're on the inland side of the range, if you like. So do get a bit of heat that comes out of the centre. That's okay. You do get a bit of cool that comes from the water too occasionally, so that works out quite nicely. Tonight, we've got the Galactic Larrikins back to join us for the Friday Free-for-All. Yay! And I've been all day, I fear I have been unsuccessful, and yet just as I hit the button, I put him up and I can't see him. Don't know what's going on there. That's a little bit weird. Hang on, I wonder if I can see. He wasn't waving. That was the problem. There you go. We need action. He was. From. Oh, he was. Oh, weird. How are you, mate?
A bit off colour today, mate, so that's why you haven't got me. I sort of just crawled out of bed, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't mean to wake you with my calls.
Didn't hear you.
Oh, well, that's the spirit.
Didn't hear you. Phone was on silent, so anybody who rang me today was unlucky.
So does that mean you need a bit of a coffee and, your breakfast to get yourself going?
Yeah, I'm going to do something like that in this respect. So yeah, you can take me off for a little while. I'll wave at you and interject when I'm ready. How's that sound?
That works out well for me, mate. No worries at all. You go off and get yourself sorted, and I'll replace you with a couple of larrikins. Hello, boys. How are you?
Excellent.
Very good. Very good. How are you, mate?
Yeah. Decent. I'm particularly impressed, Bear. You are wearing the company shirt this evening. I am overjoyed and amazed. Thank you. That is thanks. Appreciate that. And thank you, Noah, for doing absolutely nothing, but you're not even wearing your own shirt tonight. Is it creating?
Yep. Something about
is this my lagging? Is this my lagging or yours?
You were lagging, but you're back now, so
great. I did this great intro and it all fell over. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. I don't know if anybody else got to see it. So tell us, how goes the construction site up in the part of the world that you guys are in, northern southeast Queensland?
It goes very well, Carl. It's as far as construction goes, we've been doing a little bit of clearing of the. There's a lot of, what do you call it, like ground
undergrowth.
Yeah, without swearing, undergrowth is what we'd call it.
Undergrowth.
Yeah, and it's right there in your face.
Would that undergrowth start?
No, he's gone again. But yeah, it's right in your face. Oh, I just got bitten by something. That's another thing about this place.
It fights back.
It does.
This jungle fights back.
That's really shitty. I wonder what connection I've got tonight. Let's go and have a bit of a look here.
Yes. Well, we can tell you this: as we fight the jungle, it fights back.
It does. And Bear got bitten by something very vicious a few days ago.
Yeah, maybe a spider or something or other.
He was
left a big welt, but it definitely made me sick.
He was sick for a whole 24 hours. He was like on the couch, making these noises.
Well, Bear on a couch making noises isn't completely unheard of, I'll be honest. But
true.
That noise must have been a bit more alerting. No idea what kind of spider or where you were bitten?
Yeah, I definitely on my leg. There's huge welts and stuff, and I'm used to being bitten by ants, leeches, all that sort of stuff. I said the jungle here definitely fights back. But yeah, this definitely was a big welt. It's still there. You know, it was a week later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it made me sick. That's for sure.
It did.
I was just like,
You're throwing up. weren't you?
throwing up,
Yeah.
diarrhea.
So was the pain a throbbing pain, and were you throwing up and had general but large localized pain where the bite was, but up your leg as well?
All my joints too just ached. Joints ached, throwing diarrhea.
I reckon you got redback.
Yeah.
But luckily, he's got a fully intact immune system, so he was able to fight it off,
Yeah.
and now he's as good as gold.
Yeah.
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 I'm disappointed. I could have at least got some hallucinations or something. Yeah, come on. If you're gonna go
I
through
think
it, you should
I
get
think
some-
you've got to pick. I think you've got to pick up the redback spider, put it in your mouth, and chew it to get those sorts of
Yeah.
reactions.
Oh, geez. It's got to be an easier.
Don't know
way.
about that. No,
Yeah.
no.
Bring on the Neuralink. Maybe that's good sense.
Yeah, no, that sounds to me like a redback bite. I had a mate got bitten by a redback years ago in his ute, and he got bitten on the thigh, and he was the same. It sort of knocked him pretty much for a day and a half. But the first 24 hours was very painful and full of throwing up, full of vomiting.
Well, that might have been it.
Long
That's-
time since anybody in Australia has died of a redback bite. But funnel webs are, probably more the one to be watching these days, I suppose. I should bring my microphone down. People might be saying I can't hear me.
It's better.
There you go. Look at that. Amazing what happens when you. Well, I'll bring the mic in a bit closer.
Very good.
Thing.
So having a bit of a look in the chat, boys. Just going to see if anybody cares that you're here or not. I do. It's wonderful to see you. We haven't seen you in a little while. And while we're
Red Alert got stung by a blue bottle. Their whole arm started aching. Yeah, blue bottles are bad news.
Yeah.
I went to West Australia and had. I'm not a big ocean swimmer, right? For a variety of reasons, but when I was a kid, I used to have no fear of the ocean whatsoever. I'd swim, a long way out, and one day, I thought an octopus had got me. Felt this thing wrap around my leg, and it felt like it was dragging me under. It turned out it was a bit of kelp, but it put the fear of God into me. This thing, so. So very rarely after that have I ever been into the ocean without wearing a face mask, if in fact I have ever gone into the ocean again. And I've only done that on very limited occasions. Anyway, one of those was in Western Australia. I went over to see a mate of mine in Bunbury. Hadn't seen him in a long time. We used to work in radio together up in Gladstone. And he said, we've got to go to the beach. We've got to go to the beach. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, righto, the beach. Yeah, we'll go for a swim. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And it was summer. So he's taken me to one of those beautiful, deserted, south of Perth beaches in Western Australia, where all the people get eaten by sharks. And we've ploughed our way into the water quite happily. I've got about waist depth, and I've seen him do this dive into the water ahead of us. And I thought, oh, well, that's probably the way you should enter the water. So I've done this dive and come up and felt like this cobweb on my face. I'd actually dived straight into a bloody... stinger.
Oh my god!
All over my face, down my chest, over my back, and I was ripping bits of this thing off me, just thinking it was seaweed. And I swam around for another half an hour or so before parts of my face started being of such a size that every time a wave came in, my head went one way and my body went the other. So
you need first aid for that, don't you?
Yeah, well. I didn't. It turned out I didn't get a great, huge reaction to it. You could see the welts, and it was almost like a spider web had come diagonally across my face. But it wasn't pleasant. It was reasonably painful that night. The next day, touch wood, thankfully God, I healed pretty quickly. The next day I wasn't too bad, still sore, and that's when I actually figured out and started talking about it, because I didn't even bother mentioning it to my mate. I just thought it was one of those things. But the next day I was a bit sore, and he said, oh, God, it's a stinger. You've gone face first into a stinger. You should have told me I've got vinegar. And I thought, well, that's better than the that's better than the other solution I've heard, which is urine.
Peeing, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
Didn't
what
really
I was-
appreciate. I didn't really like the idea of kneeling there on the beach as he pissed on the face. So
Golden shower.
Golden shower.
yeah, no, wasn't going to happen in my life, I can tell you. So
I think you're lucky that
yeah, so
days later the little aliens didn't bust out of his stomach.
Yeah, right. Jeez.
It might have been
Yeah,
there to
well.
see.
Well, it's because I have a very good immune system, Bear. A very good immune system.
Fully intact.
Fully intact. That's it.
Actually, just remembering back to that time, the weird thing for me, I got quite disorientated for a time. I had to do a bit of driving over in Western Australia, and I wasn't used to the ocean being on the other side of me. So when I travel north, the ocean is always on my right.
Yeah.
But not when you leave Perth and head north. The ocean's on your left.
Yeah.
And while it doesn't sound like much, it can be quite discombobulating for a person who, prides themselves on having a navigational sort of system in their head. You don't need a GPS. I used to have one of those. Now I need a GPS. But found that quite weird, the ocean on the other side. Now, I've got to say, some of the most, probably the most beautiful sunsets that I've ever seen straight into the ocean. And I'd never seen those before. So worth going to Western Australia just for those two things. Of course, getting out of Western Australia again could well be the problem, because the government over there continue to put forward restrictions and laws, in inverted commas, over the people, restricting their freedoms, restricting their ability to work the way they'd like to and play the way that they'd like to. In fact, I reckon Western Australia wouldn't be far behind Victoria in some of those restrictions that are being put forward. In fact, Victoria, thank you, boys, for leading me to this. Victoria have fairly interesting changes to the short stay. And this is something that I reckon will come north, boys. So you might be interested in this. The Victorian government has announced a new levy of 7.5%, which will be paid for by the guest at the time of booking. The government has indicated that revenue collected will be used for new social housing. This announcement deviates significantly from the previous commitments outlined in the Victorian Housing pledge to create one simple set of rules for the short stay sector in Victoria. Airbnb was not appropriately consulted on any of the changes. But it goes on. So starting from the 1st of January 2025, 7.5% levy will be imposed on short stay accommodation across Victoria. That is increasing costs for guests and impacting tourism right across the state, of course. The levy will apply to every booking unless your listing is your principal place of residence. That'll be something to do with what you're giving out, what you're sharing out, where you're allowing people to stay. Local government will have the authority to regulate short stay accommodation separately. Now, that's a very important line. Local government will have the authority to regulate short stay accommodation separately. That means that no two local governments will be the same, which will be a bit frightening. So 79 local councils around Victoria, and nobody will know how each one will choose to regulate the short stay sector in their particular area. So you might choose to do a driving tour of Victoria over, let's say, the course of a week, and go through from eastern Victoria, deep Gippsland, up to, let's say, the Murray River, along the Murray, down through the Sunraysia region, and then over to the Wimmera, to Horsham, and then from Horsham down to the southwest coast. And you might want to go and see the 12 apostles, of which I think there are probably 7 still standing, along the Great Ocean Road before coming back to Melbourne. You will have to deal with the rules in each of those council areas in which you choose to stay, and they all could be different.
Crazy.
So,
yeah.
Just another way of getting another tax out of the batteries that we are for them.
Maybe it's a very clever tax on brothels.
How do you work that out?
Or short stay.
Very short.
Very short stay. Same thing, isn't it? Hotels by
Well, it
the
would
hour.
apply to them as well,
Wouldn't it?
7.5%.
Yeah.
Unless she lived
Yeah.
there. Like if she had people come to her house, then she wouldn't have to pay the 7.5%. But otherwise, if she was at a brothel.
At a brothel,
then
then
she would.
So the government's worked out how to put a 7.5% tax on a happy ending.
Unless the madam
Which
owner,
sort of takes the happiness out of it, doesn't it?
Well, at least a little bit, yeah.
maybe if the-
7.5%.
that's too much.
I best go to the chat now and see whether or not people are still there.
Looks like they've all gone.
Yeah, well, I do get warned occasionally that I get a bit close, and sometimes when those warnings come, I'm like, what? You know, accusing me of things that I was alluding to that I wasn't alluding to. So I must say that there are those amongst us who have dirtier minds than me. Can I just say?
Oh, of course there are.
I've heard of
Much
such things.
Present company included.
Yes, I would say that is probably the case. Last time we were on, we had a lot of discussion about Australian natural gas and the wealth in our commonwealth and what the commonwealth of this country is. And the commonwealth of this country, if you didn't see that show, is things like our ore, our coal, our gold, our uranium, our nickel, our copper, our silver, our wheat, our wool. These are things that, as Australians, we have a lot to do with. Now, coal's been failing and falling for a few years now. Iron ore recently has taken a bit of a dump. So where are we at, boys? Our wealth, our common wealth, has been stolen from us. I'm pleased to see that Gina Reinhardt and her company has given some of that wealth back to the Australian Olympians, but I fear it's going to the Australian Olympic Commission, which is probably just as corrupt, and it's not nearly enough. She and her family, along with every other mining family in this country, have benefited off the common wealth, while they got a payment for every ton of ore or coal or whatever was taken out of their ground. They were paid a commission for every ton of it. The people of Australia, who are in fact entitled to a share of that as well, get nothing. Now, the government, those in power, I think, boys, would argue that we get plenty because the government gets money from those companies. Bear, I should let you take that up. Do the companies that remove our commonwealth from the ground and sell it to China and other countries, do they return the money via the government to the people in some way?
No, unfortunately, they don't. They did this unbelievable deal, believe it or not. This is like we're talking about natural gas, where some very corrupt politicians who then went and worked for the gas company, oil and gas company, shock horror, and got paid millions. But they sold us all out. And they did a deal where basically if the oil and gas companies sell the natural gas to us as domestic clients, then they have to pay like a royalty. But if they sell it overseas, they don't have to pay anything. Now, to give it an example of just how ludicrous this is, we've all heard of the oil nations like United Emirates and Qatar. Qatar sells so much gas that all of their health, their housing, their education is all paid for. But would you believe it that Australia sells more gas than Qatar? They get 76 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars a year from their royalties, and we get less than 2 billion a year. We have enough to pay for the entire all of our society. We don't need all this mass immigration, which the reason why they're doing is so cool is to pay for pay for our growing economy. But all we have to do is just tax and get the royalties from our Commonwealth natural resources. In this case, it's natural gas, but it's everything. We've got like the largest uranium reserves, all of these rare earth minerals which they need now for all the computer age, the AI age, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
You know that they need what we got, and we keep selling this. Now, it gets even more ludicrous with the natural gas, where like we've done all these deals to sell it overseas, and we're getting to the stage where we're running out ourselves because we've sold, let the natural gas companies just sell it all. So we have to buy our own gas back from Japan at an inflated price.
And this deal is, while not secret exactly, it is something that normal Australians would think our government would do to us, but it's all tied up in trade deals, isn't it? So it's
the complicity of the mainstream media, because the mainstream media, I mean, even if you don't look at the evil cabal that we can understand these things, these people are controlled by through compromise and all these dirty things. But even if you just look at it at a surface level of it just being economic, the oil and gas companies spend huge amounts of advertising in the mainstream media companies. So it's obviously they're incentivized not to tell us what's going on because they'll lose all this revenue. That's at the surface level they can argue. But this is how corrupt and how ludicrous the situation is, and why something like this is what we as a movement can use to rally just the normies behind, because it is such an egregious and outrageous situation. We know of countries like Iceland and Qatar and all of these, Alaska, and even Russia. Russia's maintaining a war with NATO by selling oil and gas. So, it is extremely profitable, and we've got all of this stuff, and we're being ripped off because our politicians are incredibly corrupt. So these are the things that we can use to rally everyone around. The housing shortage. I mean, we could pay for so much housing and all of this stuff just through the royalties from this one thing alone.
Well, I was going to get onto the housing thing. So Jason Clare, Minister for Bullshit, Part 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the Labor Party, and something to do with the educational process as well, has come today and said that he's decided he's going to limit the number of new course startings or courses started next year in our Australian universities to 240,000. Now that's up about 85,000 more than last year, and says that we're going to be back at our universities, at least, will be back to international student levels that were pre-COVID. What's changed, boys, from pre-COVID to today? Could it be housing? He's going to import another 240,000 students.
Wow.
Next year. The university.
Where are you going to put them?
Where are you going to put them? There's 170 or 180,000 that have come in this year. They didn't come in to do a one-year course. Universities don't offer one-year courses. It'll be a 3-year minimum, maybe 2, but it'll be a 3-year minimum. I know that there are some deals with Chinese universities where students, particularly in hospitality areas, come here for 6 months and then go home and then come back here and do a year. But I think that really depends on whether or not the Chinese Ministry of Truth can trust the student to be one of them when they're out of the country. So they're given a 6-month probationary period where they get to come to Australia and participate as an Australian student. But we all know that the Chinese intelligence services are very active inside our universities, and this is how. So they send these kids over, and the ones that survive and don't fall into the depravity of the West, and trust me, there are very few of them that fall to the depravity of the West. Some might become criminals, but that doesn't mean they're using the product that they're selling. Some of them are very smart in that regard. So then, of course, he also announced that he was going to close down 150 or educational institutions who had been rorting the system and allowing students into the country under students had turned up to any classes. What he didn't tell us was the number of students. Every one of the students that attended or enrolled at any one of those 150 universities needs to be deported immediately.
Yeah. Wow.
But do you think the Labor government are going to do that?
Probably not.
No, overseas students is our biggest money spinner, and there is no
Huge.
way that they will jeopardize that.
So where are they going to sleep them?
That's a good
The
question.
universities aren't building big dormitories.
They are, but not to that extent.
No.
They're building them all the time because it's their cash cow. They are just wanting to grow it, but they just don't care.
So if you live in a university town, and this figure, like Canberra, like Brisbane, like the Gold Coast, or even further afield, places like Bundaberg, Rockhampton, all have universities in them. Tamworth got universities in them these days. Townsville, yeah. It's phenomenal business, and the big complaint from many of the universities is while there are new overseas students coming in, they're only going to a select and very few number of universities along the East Coast. They're not, going all over across the country. So this is designed to bring in more students to fill up what little space there is left in regional areas now for accommodation for Australians who are already here. It's going to jam a great deal of pressure on the rental prices in every university school market.
Yeah.
And it's going to put more people like you and me and many of those watching right now in their car because they won't be able to afford it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
And yet we have people who want to vote for these morons and say they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you that there's any alternative by voting for the other morons on the other side.
Of course not. Both
they'd support it.
Two wings of the same bird, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Two cheeks of the same ant.
Again, it's the larger picture of it's just been completely bought out, where it's so corrupt, where these universities are making so much money, and then they're paying the lecturers, so the lecturers are then passing these students who can't even speak English
and doing whatever
they're told to say. They know that they're in groups, so it's a group assignment. And there's always one Australian in the group, and that person has to do the assignment, and everyone gets credit.
That's
it's
true.
Outrageous. It's outrageous.
We saw it at one of the universities in Canberra that we worked at.
We won't say the name, but and it's just crazy ass. They couldn't even we were answering the phone. We were working in a position where they'd be calling us, but they didn't. Could barely say hello.
Barely understand.
Barely say hello. It's like, how the hell are you at university?
How are you listening to lectures and writing essays and all this?
Yeah.
How do you do it in English without chat? And there was chat GPT back then.
No, exactly.
You can see how they do it now.
Yeah, a lot of them were. I saw it from there.
And doesn't it make indoctrinating them easy? Because if all the professor has to do is to tick the box to say, well, I delivered the lecture, the brainwashing has commenced, and I've delivered portion 1, lecture 1 of it, then Abdul Gupta Ferrari can take that information in or not at the end of the day.
They don't give a shit.
Most of them don't give a shit if they're even there to hear it.
Business. And it's all about, at this particular, like it would be with all of the universities, it's such a competitive business. All it cared about was reputation. So anything that was untoward, anything that could damage the reputation was hidden and covered up and never to be spoken ever again of.
And here's a scoop for you. One of those things that one of the universities used to cover up probably on a per semester basis was suicide of students and Asian students.
Yeah.
What would happen a lot of the time would be that these students would come from a village where they were the smartest kid in the village. So the whole village pitches in and raises the money to send them across to Australia to go to university. They get across here. They can't speak the language. They can't pass the courses. And so they can't go back there because they're so ashamed. And so the poor buggers bloody kill themselves. It's just, it's tragic. It really is. It's tragic, so sad. And they cover that up. Yeah. That happens once a semester. Yeah. It's terrible.
Wow.
Yeah. The other one is a statistic they worry about is like assaults on campus, and that's all assaults you can think of.
Yeah.
We won't say it for YouTube wise. But so I'll be careful what I say, but I saw them manipulate that so they didn't have to classify things as what these particular assaults on campus. So no, it happened across the road, so therefore
didn't happen on campus.
Didn't happen on campus. Yeah. Because that person down there, not there.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Yeah.
Cover some stuff up.
All sorts of things. Yeah. But yeah, huge business, big business. But then think from the other side of it, like the Chinese government, as you said, the intelligence services are all over it and all through it. So the CCP get to use it as a bargaining manipulation point, as we saw during the pandemic, where they said, "Oh, we'll take away all your exports of whatever, wine and lobster." And
lobster.
Funny enough, hey. But those sorts of things, so that they've got it over us from that economic point of view with these students, but then they've got all of these spies basically just embedded into our community. Can you imagine if we actually tried to go to war with China? Everything we sabotaged
easily.
Yeah. And here's the rub. These people who want to go out and do the right thing by the climate and get an electric car. Well, 90% of the world's electric vehicles are made in China. There is a reason that Huawei is not allowed to supply any kind of Wi-Fi or telecommunications equipment to the Australian government. Why? Because they're the largest providers of technology, communications technology in China, owned by the Chinese Communist Party. Great company, and they do very, very well. But they're into everything, including every electric car in China gets an update at least once a month. But that update, you don't have to take it to the dealer. It happens in your house while it's plugged in to your Wi-Fi.
Wow.
So your electric car can be updated by the Chinese factory at any time while you've got it at home plugged in charging. And you don't get notified of it. It's just something that happens.
Automatic update.
Now, automatic update. That can update everything in your electric vehicle. It can take code. It's a computer. So let's say, for instance, you were, someone of interest that was saying bad things about the Chinese Communist Party, and you're out here or wherever the hell you are in your electric vehicle, Chinese-produced electric vehicle. You're an Australian. You've got nothing to do with China. You've been outspoken against some of their practices, and they think you've been doing the wrong thing. Well, one night while you're asleep, it is possible for them right now to flick into your car and tell your front right-hand brake to turn on after 10 minutes of a constant speed of 108 kilometers an hour or more. And that'll give you just enough time to get from your home out onto a freeway to start driving to work or going somewhere. And if that freeway is 110 kilometers, I was thinking of the M1 here between the Gold Coast and Brisbane, although you're unlikely to get to 110 on it these days. But you get the idea. It's a bit like an altitude pressure trigger, which is a certain kilometer an hour. And if 108 is the trigger, then that's the trigger. And all of a sudden it breaks your front right-hand wheel and throws you into a 360-degree spin down the freeway into the wall, or worse still,
if this is programmed to happen on a dual carriageway into the truck that's coming head on towards you. And
Yeah,
it does all that without you applying anything, doing anything. And it'll happen like that.
yeah.
That
was
technology is available now.
I saw that on
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
also,
well, I think
it reminded me of that Obama movie with the End of the World one, where all the Tesla cars, don't look. No, it wasn't Don't Look Up. It was another one where they blocked all the freeways with all the Tesla cars, so people couldn't get out. There was the one with it had the Australian girl in it, didn't it?
Locked up.
The one who was the satanic worshipper,
Yeah.
Nicole
so you've
Kidman.
heard the. Oh, yep. You've heard the latest news about the Australian government on EVs.
No,
So by 2030, we're expected to have 7 million EVs on the road here in Australia. They've revised that down to 4.5 million. That's because it's impossible to get the infrastructure in place by 2030 to be able to service and charge 7 million electric vehicles in this country.
Absolutely.
Now, based on the fact that electric vehicle sales, not only in this country, but in every country, are going through the floor, Ampol have decided that they're not, well, they've re-released, if you like, their schedule for updates of service stations in the future that were planned to get an EV charging centre upgrade. They've reduced that list by 2/3.
Can you imagine a service station? They'll be queued up for miles. It takes half an hour or an hour to bloody charge the thing. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. And then you get there, and then there's somebody who's just pulled up in front of you. They're there for an hour and a half to charge up. So you're waiting for an hour and a half before you can wait an hour and a half to actually charge.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And that's if you're second in line, like.
Yeah.
No, they need car parks. They need every shopping centre car park needs to have a charging, station at every car park.
Yeah.
And then,
absolutely.
they're serious.
But there'd be no money in that, would there?
No. Well, or it would cost way too much.
But you're forgetting you'll only be allowed 10 minutes away from where you live. So your electric vehicle will get you there and back, no problem, mate.
It's charged at home.
Oh, look at your bloody right too. And the rate we're going now, there'll be a USB charger you can take with it, with you in your pocket just to charge it up, give you enough to get home.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, like an emergency battery.
Yes.
Exactly
what it is.
I like
exactly
it.
What it is. Terribly sad, but unfortunate that that's the way of the world at the moment.
It's crazy, and of course, it's all just to wake us up, to wake everyone up, because these crazy things have to happen.
Well, in China, did actually test a thorium reactor, which is first actual commercial thorium reactor, which is a form of nuclear reactor, but a lot safer, basically.
It's fusion, isn't it? Not fission.
Oh, mate, you're asking the wrong person.
Yeah.
But it was actually something to do with a molten salt sort of reaction, which is continuous. But rather than having a hot core and then water circulating around it, and then you can have an accident if it all goes wrong. The whole thing circulates, like the whole core almost like circulates. So it's less likely to have an accident, where you can do like the heat transfer safer. But I'm not the person, but it's been sort of the thorium reactor has been around. The idea has been for a couple of decades, but it was always could they get it to work? Could they not?
From Pinaroo, the fire brigade that he's part of will not fight an EV fire, and will not fight an EV charging station fire. Will not fight it. There's no point. They don't have enough water, I imagine.
Well, that's bloody prejudiced, and you should be banned.
Discriminatory.
It's total discrimination.
It is.
That's not inclusive
woke.
of you at
It's
all.
not woke.
Understanding where he lives, though, they have a fire truck, probably two, but they are in remote South Australia.
Yeah, it's like Mad
So-
Max territory. So it's all combustion
It is.
engine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
high
there's a bit of
octane.
that there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, a lot of burn.
But there'd
So-
be no point in trying to put it out because
Oh,
you
no,
can't.
no, they can't. No.
Yeah. I mean,
Do you
we've
know
seen
when you
the
went
video.
to the Congo guide to bring you that cobalt? You put it out and you reuse it.
So I can sit there, roast some marshmallows, enjoy the fire.
Yeah. It's a bit like fireworks, just at a lower level.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good fun.
The other thing that people are finding, when they get all happy and slapping themselves on the back for buying an electric vehicle, is they're finding that, and they're only finding this out after the fact in many cases, because none of them are asking it going into this. Once they've bought their electric vehicle, they take it for a little drive. What's the first thing they do? They take it home and park it in their garage. That garage, more often than not today, is actually attached to your house. Should your EV burst into flames while you're charging it that night and your house burns down, you and the family dog get out, that's great. But your insurance is void on your house.
Really?
Why is
Because
that?
you stuck something that, because in the fine print of the insurance contracts, they explicitly outline charging lithium batteries inside your house.
Right. So you'd have to change your insurance before you buy the
Or
car,
notify
or
them
before
or
you get it
something.
delivered anyway.
Yeah.
Well, or be able to park it out the front.
Yeah. Have
Okay.
a big long extension lead.
If you park it in your garage, and let's say in Queensland here, that would probably mean under your house, be it a whole house that you're on, or an apartment building. Think of how many apartment buildings in Surfers Paradise and the Sunshine Coast alone would have EVs in those underground car parks in them. Now, those underground car parks are just cement boxes.
Mm.
Right? It would be like Luton Airport all over again if one of those goes up. Every vehicle on every level will burn.
Blooming heck, you wouldn't want to be responsible for that, would you?
No.
No. And
too.
every one of those buildings has a huge fire suppression system with like two 50,000-litre tanks of water on the top of the building, so that their fire suppression systems are gravity fed with a huge pressure. And they have pumps and all sorts of other things as well. And we've all seen those little squirter things in the underground car parks.
Yep.
Never going to put out. You could, we've seen the stories of EVs that have taken 10 loads of water from 10 different fire trucks to put out. And then the towing company that hauled the wreck back to their tow yard has to ring the fire brigade again 6 hours later to come and put the thing out because it's burst into flames in their holding yard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I've heard stories like that. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
The sprinklers might set the other EV vehicles off, so there's always that.
But like I say, it's the if you had that on your conscience, that'd be horrible. If you knew that was your car that burnt down a whole apartment complex and killed kids and whatever, that would be the worst thing you could do. It's like with this place, we've got a lot of trees which are close to the houses, and the fire department have said they want a 20-meter radius from any building, no tall eucalyptus trees, because it's not just the matter of your place getting burnt down by a forest fire, but if your house catches on fire, it could then catch the bush on fire, catch the whole bush on fire, and then God knows how many people you could kill from that, just because you've got a guest who left some fat on the bloody stove. It's it's a double-edged sword.
And we have to be in Australia, particularly, fire is absolutely devastating, and we're coming into that year where certain parts of Australia can suffer terribly. I drive through parts of the Gold Coast on a pretty regular basis that I don't think have seen flame in 20 years. because of all the tree huggers and the greens that don't allow burning off, and the council that doesn't allow burning off. I believe some of that is changing, and they have been more open to burning off applications. But I know today, being as hot and yesterday as it has been, probably not ideal. But in the last 3 or 4 weeks, it has been ideal weather for burning off, because the ground is essentially damp. The fire isn't going to get away from you. It's only the really, really dry stuff that's going to burn. So
true,
I haven't seen any burn off fires around this area. What I have seen is threats from council. Not threats. In fact, they're just telling you they're going to do it. They're going to fly over properties and spray them for fire ants. Now, don't think this property's received that notice yet, but I know of one probably 5 kilometres away that has.
Really?
And the council don't tell you. They don't ask permission. They don't do anything. They just say, we're going to aerial spray your property. Now, I don't know that this particular property has, not unlike this place, has new sheep, new baby lambs, new baby calves, and a whole heap of other stuff, ducks and bloody chickens and everything over there had a root and got pregnant, and now we're all having kids, everything. So what happens to their water supply? He's got dams over there too. What happens when this chopper just flies over the dam? Oh, no, I'll turn it off when I fly over the dam.
Yeah, right.
Really?
Yeah, there's no wind.
Yeah, right. Yeah, what about the people who might be on that property at the time?
Yeah, so there's no warning. They don't tell you they're coming, so you can evacuate or anything or cover anything.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Can they spray from?
Can they spray from a car? No.
Not from
a lot of the areas.
I said, can they spray for red?
Yeah. Well, yeah. They should.
I'm all for that. Fuck the jungle.
Mate,
and
we'd have them spraying.
Can I get rid of them as well?
We'd have them spraying for eastern browns and carpet pythons if some people had their way. So,
mate, we saw a huge goanna. It was massive.
Yeah.
It was said 1 meter long. Crawled up this tree. It was insane. Like,
sounds like a Spencer's.
It was like a dinosaur. Historic dinosaur. 717.
Be a bit careful around big goannas in case they think you are a tree.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to
get
get too close.
A long time ago, back in the 80s, when we were growing up in Townsville, we used to play on a hack of a golf course out at Paloranda, Rose Bay. It was actually called Rose Bay Country Club, and honestly, we had a couple of times where you'd hit the ball, and the next thing, a big goanna would come out and would steal it, think it was an egg or whatever, and poof, take off with you. And you have to go chasing after your ball with a bloody goanna. There you go.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, he's a biggie.
Oh, it's a Lacey, actually, is it? Might be.
Is it? I don't know. What is it?
Yeah, lace monitor, I think. Yeah.
Lace monitor. It was massive.
Same deal.
Yeah, okay. It was huge. It was over 1 meter long.
Yeah.
No problems climbing trees. So just imagine what those claws would do if they decided to climb up you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No thanks.
Yeah. Try and get as low to the ground. Just a bit of advice to our American friends: if you come to Australia and you come across a big goanna, be low on the ground, as low as you can, because if the big goanna gets scared, they like to go up trees, and if you're the tallest thing around, it'll think you're the tree. So don't climb the tree. Don't be the tree.
No,
I should
don't
say.
be the tree.
Don't be the tree.
And to quote Paul Hogan, you can live on the shit.
Yeah.
And this
seriously,
guy,
they have claws as thick as my fingers and about as big. Look at that!
Yeah, I was cleaning the room the other day, and this guy just came and jumped on the balcony.
Wow.
Yeah, and then he came inside and jumped on the chair.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And same thing as the goannas. You can live on them, but they taste like shit.
Same as those bloody koalas. Yeah.
I was going to ask you how hard it was to mash the eggs. Mate, that is a beautiful parrot. Are they local to where you are? You get a lot of them?
Yeah, they're around here a bit. Kookaburras are the most. Obviously, you hear them.
They're almost like a pest.
They are almost like a pet, like
Yeah.
the what do you call it? The rooster that wakes you up in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. This
I was going to make a joke then, but oh wow,
He's on the chair.
that is just so cool,
Yeah, it's so funny,
mate. I'm going to take a video. I'm going to take a video of the things that come into my house.
Yeah.
So far, there's been 1 rat, 2 mice, and I suspect at least 1 goat.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, righto. That's a big
Yeah.
vermin. That one.
Mhm.
There is a suspicious set of hoof prints on a bit of rubber at the front door.
And what XXX numbers are you ringing to get these deliveries?
He's say, oh no, now it's all coming clear. You are a Mason.
Mate, I'm so high up. I'm so high up on the Freemasonry list that the goats deliver themselves to me. I don't even have to go and get them.
You heard it here first. Oh no!
Oh God! I hear that the old is calling me a Freemason again.
Oh no!
Awesome! Just a bit of evidence.
Oh yeah.
It saddens me. I don't know if this is working or not. Oh, you're back. Yeah, it saddens me that the old pirate with these sorts of claims, but I would simply just say, show me the proof.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the
And
goat
Darren
is
Bergwerth for that matter, but you know,
I don't want to see that proof. Innuendo is enough.
goat footprints are
A goat
enough.
turns up to someone's house at the night. That's enough.
Yeah, obviously.
mate, we have 100. We have 150 of them here, and they know that I've been known to feed them on occasion. I've been actually known to go and buy fruit for myself and feed it to the goats. So
the night's very cold. That's all we can say.
We're men and men and goats and nervous.
Boys, we've got sheep on the property as well.
Oh,
won't have to deal with any horns that way. So
you got your gumboots.
However,
all nations happy.
Gumboots with Kiwi accent, I find, makes them very happy. But yeah.
Oh, classic.
Oh, and speaking of Kiwi accent, condolences to any of our Kiwis who are watching the show tonight. The Maori king passed away in the last 24 hours or so. So to his family, to the entire Maori family, condolences. It is a very sad time for the Maori people, and I'm sure that they'll come through it. They're a strong, brave, and wonderful people, and brothers of ours in this fight as we go forward. So pay respects to late last night, early this morning. Interestingly enough, he'd been in hospital for heart surgery. He was early 70s, I want to say, early to mid 70s. So he wasn't a particularly old man and highly well respected. Commiserations to our Kiwi brothers and sisters who might be feeling that loss at the moment. Boys, it's been an hour.
Has it?
Yep.
It has. And I feel after an hour, it should be about time for us to depart on a Friday night because people have things to go and do. And I, on the other hand, tonight am going to go and have some dinner that I'm going to make.
Really?
It could be interesting. I've never made one I'm making before. If it goes well, I'll tell you about it because I'm going to film it. If it doesn't go well, this will be the last you hear about my dinner tonight. All right?
Okay.
So who in the comments wants to run on chances that we ever see this ever again?
Or the chances that we ever see Carl again.
Is that? Oh, the boys are locked up.
We'll hear from the fire brigade.
Sorry, I missed that.
Well, you're not feeding anyone else, I hope. It's just you.
No, just actually, I'm babysitting a dog at the moment. I'm babysitting Kelly. So Kelly is currently asleep at my feet, and will probably benefit from tonight's meal as well, I would say, particularly if I mess it up, likely to get it all. So we'll see what happens. Vince did do a runner. I see on Red Alert pointed out. Yeah, I think he'd only just woken up when he popped on. And I think he needs to get his battery going a bit. For those of you who are unaware, and Vince is quite open about a few of his medical issues, he has a heart problem. And sometimes the heart goes a bit slow. Sometimes the heart goes a bit fast. So they've got him on all sorts of different drugs to try and regulate that. And he had been doing pretty well. Recently, he had to wear the monitor for a week. So I don't know if you boys know about them. There's heart monitors that you can wear around for a week. And then they go back, and over the next week or two, they analyze whatever it did. And then they ring you and say, come in and we'll talk about it. Usually takes a couple of weeks. Vince handed his in on the Friday afternoon. They rang him on the Monday and said, can you come in tomorrow and see us? So, and stop taking your beta blockers. So straight away. So I think the beta blockers were lowering his blood pressure, or might have been suppressing it too much. It needed to come up a bit higher. And I think what we saw there at the beginning of that was a very low blood pressure Vince. So I think he's probably had to go off and get something to eat and probably take a little bit of meds and have a shower, wait for his body to actually get into wake-up mode, because he has been asleep all day. People may not be aware, Vince sleeps very irregular hours, which is a shocking thing for the body to have to deal with. It places a huge stress on your circadian rhythm in your body, and the repair work that your body does every night when you go and sleep, or every day when you go and sleep for night workers, is essential for your body to get, for you to get good use and long use out of your body. Vince has never been one of these people who sleeps, 8 hours a night every night. For whatever reason, he apparently has always been one of these people who works until he can't work any further and then goes to bed. And in some cases, he may go to bed and sleep for a day and a half because he's been up for 2 days or 3 days beforehand, all without the aids of any drugs. So, so he's been able to moderate. He's been able to bring that back into a range of about 24 hours now. He can. It's rare that he will sleep 8 hours in 24, but he will sleep 12 hours in maybe 32 or 36. So you get him for a day and a half, and then you don't see him for a day. And I've been trying to ring him all day, and I don't know when he went down, but sometime yesterday afternoon he went down, so didn't wake up until just before the show tonight. So, so yeah, he's got to get the heart sort of going again, and because of the way that he sleeps, and he has very long sleep recovery period. But then once he's up and going, he'll be going now for another 24, 36 hours. So,
wow.
Yeah. And do the beta blockers, do they turn you into like an alpha male?
Well, I would have to say no. They haven't helped him with growing any hair on the top of his head. He hasn't shown me the rest of his body. Not that I want to see that. So, so yeah. All right, boys. Now you've had your soft opening, and your soft opening was pried open gently by a few people. Your harder opening, maybe not your hardest, but your harder opening is rapidly approaching.
Yeah, the proper website should be up and running, about a week or so, I'd say, and then we'll be proper open,
On the other property.
The fourth property will be online then too. That's right, because we just had one of the the second last. We've still got one long-term tenant, but we're keeping her for as long as she wants to stay because she's beautiful and lovely. And
she pays good money.
And she does pay good money. She basically pays for our insurance.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. So,
Yep, right.
With insurance.
Yeah, sure.
Well, knowing you two like I do, I know you need insurance. So it's
Oh,
great
totally.
you've got that covered.
Yeah. Well, it's basically just for bushfires, you know. So we've
Yeah.
just got to clear everything away, then pay off the bank loan, and then we won't need insurance.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
while we still got the bank loan, you've got to have the insurance, unfortunately.
Yep.
Or we just paint everything blue.
Yeah, paint it all blue will be right.
Yeah, then we'll be right.
Including
Yeah,
the
well,
trees.
that was going to be the next question. I know you guys, for people who haven't figured out what the Galactic Larrikins are doing, Bradford's family bought a property that has a number of other dwellings on it, including 2 trains.
One train with two cabins. So it's a train in half, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And the cabin, like, you boys have to be congratulated. The work you did on just remodeling, restyling, and bringing up those cabins is just, it's beautiful. I mean, truly beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
And for a B&B, particularly for anybody who's into trains, I would say a stay in the Sunshine Coast hinterland in a train in a rainforest would be a must. So looking forward. Do you want to tell people the name of the business now, or do you just want to wait until you're fully open, ready to go? Because I know
until we're fully open, because I'd like people to go to the website and have a look at the website rather than go to somewhere else and see it. Yeah, so
cool. We'll wait.
Got to build that tension, build that stress.
That's it.
It was like Kamala Harris, building up tension for the first interview, 42 days. We're the same. We're on countdown now. We'll release the name. We'll leak some little pictures out.
Yeah.
And then
a couple of birds.
And then for the first interview, we'll get Neo in here as the support dog. It's like, if anyone's following it, she had to have a little mate come in to support. They were all taking the piss out of her VP pick, whatever his name is, Tim Waltz or something or other.
He had a support dog.
Well, no, that he came into her first interview with her. And everyone was taking the piss out. Yeah, everyone was taking the piss out of her and saying, "You're supposed to be this strong woman, the first female president, and you have to bring in a support animal to
a male,
a white male, an old white male, an old white male as a support animal, a support creature
That's gold.
To hold your hand while you did your first interview, which took 42 days to happen. So
that's great.
Great.
Yeah. Well, I think the interview was 18 minutes long, heavily edited. If that's what the American people can expect from their president, come forward, God help you.
Well, that's what that's all they need to package it in their propaganda machine. Get those little clips, get all that they needed. Oh, she answered those questions. See, this heavily, but will it work? We shall see. Hopefully not. With him signing up RFK Jr. and Kelsey Gabbard, that's huge. To bring on who are both ex-Democrats.
And Elon, he's
a huge one. His interview was awesome. And him saying that he would help out Trump, make the government more efficient,
accountable and efficient,
so to speak. That's just awesome.
He even had himself standing at the podium of the Department of Official. We're going to fix up your fuck ups or whatever it was.
The Zoom call he did with all his staff, and he sacked all his staff. You can imagine him doing that with the cabinet members.
Absolutely. How good would that be?
That'd be hilarious.
God, more power to him. Bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. All right, boys, have yourself a fabulous weekend.
You too, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy. Love you. And say hi to your mum for me, Bradford.
I will. Thank you, Carl.
I'm not trying to do a rove. I'm just can't say hi to your
mum. Take it out to your mum. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Well, see you, boys. Thanks, buddy.
Yes. The Galactic Larrikins, great to have him back on the show. It's been a little while. I don't know what your plans are for the weekend, folks. I'm planning on doing a little bit of resting, but at some point I'm quite likely to pick up the phone and do something over the weekend if it takes my eye. I want to try and get out and take some photos if I can. Tomorrow morning is going to be taken up with doing washing, and and I had to decommission my clothesline the other day. So I've got to find a new tree to hang my clothesline around because the last one is now chopped up into firewood-sized chunks. So once I've figured that out, big issues, I know. I might go out and see if I can take some more photos tomorrow and just see what during the day that camera can do. Because I don't think I've taken, other than a couple of bird photos, I don't think I've used it during the day yet. Whatever you're going to be doing this weekend, please let it be safe. Be your family safe. And I hope if you're having a birthday or a family celebration, you've got all your loved ones around you. It's a very important time. Father's Day coming up this weekend. And I trust that you'll be getting together with your dad, or your kids will be coming to be with you as best that they can. It's always hard. Kids grow up, get their own lives. And sometimes distance is a bit of a tyranny. It's difficult to get back for celebrations like Father's Day. But it is a very important day. Just like Mother's Day is a very important day. So I hope you're going to share that day with your dad or your significant father figure in whichever way you feel is best for you guys. And I hope you have a ball doing anything you're going to do. Whatever you do, don't be the dickhead on the road and watch out for the ones that are.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!